Water. It's a miraculous substance that enables life on our planet, and it often defines where we live and how we make a living. This is especially true in Wyoming. Of all Wyoming's natural resources, water is the most critical to our survival as a prosperous, diverse, and beautiful state. Water is also our most vulnerable resource, at the heart of a present-day dilemma that began 100 years ago. During the settlement of the West, good water was a primary concern. The lack or abundance of it determined where families could start their new lives. And they claimed homesteads wherever they found water. On the high, dry plains of Wyoming, they often had to settle for land near water, where they diverted and channeled and eventually dammed the intermittent streams to store water for their summer crops and livestock. They learned one vital thing from their hard existence, that Wyoming's water is not much more than a yearly crop of melted snow. As Wyoming ranchers learned to live with the ebb and flow of seasonal streams, they made their own laws about flowing water, tying it legally to their land and protecting a way of life that was carved out of the dry landscape. When Wyoming settlers began to build dams and reservoirs, the downstream states made legal claims on the waters flowing out of Wyoming, leading to a series of hard-fought court battles beginning in the early 1900s. Today, a complex water allocation system divides up Wyoming's yearly snowmelt. 4 major river systems begin in Wyoming: the Platte, the Snake Columbia, the Yellowstone, Missouri, and the Green, Colorado. These river systems have been tightly managed for years and now have very little extra water. The Colorado River system is over-allocated, and the southwestern states downstream from Wyoming have historically used more than their allotments. The Colorado River is now the primary water source for 30 million people in the southwestern U.S. and Mexico. This arid region has a projected population of 40 million by the year 2020. Wyoming's population barely hovers above 500,000 people. It's still a dry, wide-open land where agriculture claims more than 80% of the state's water use. Ironically, the second largest water consumer in this arid landscape is evaporation from reservoirs. Despite its agricultural heritage and small population, Wyoming is one of the leading states in energy production, mostly from coal and natural gas. Both of these industries are surprisingly water-intensive to operate and support. If new water is needed by this expanding industry, it will most likely come through buying water rights from agriculture. Wyoming is also representative of a larger problem. The calculation of Western states' water shares in the early 1900s coincided with a period of unusually high moisture. Snowfall in the mountains was at historic levels, producing spring runoffs far above average. Today, 100 years later, we're able to examine a longer span of historical records and see the early 1900s for the anomaly they were. Basically, the mountains are much drier than we thought. Something else is happening as well, something at the very root of the system. By combining weather measurements for the historical past with prehistoric evidence such as tree rings dating back 1,500 years or more, we are now able to see much longer-term trends in temperature and precipitation. All the evidence points to steadily rising temperatures in the West. The vast western watersheds are already undergoing significant changes in response to warmer temperatures and shorter winters, including forest die-offs from mountain pine beetle infestations, more severe wildfires, and glaciers that have melted away to a fraction of what they were in the early 1900s. All of this, coupled with huge increases in downstream demand brought on by an exploding population in the Southwest, means that water supplies in the West will most likely decrease while the demand for Wyoming water continues to rise. How will Wyoming create strategies for taking the lead in responding to these changing conditions? How does a sparsely populated agricultural state protect its beauty, its people and their way of life, and its water? This is the dilemma that our film will explore and document.